Hi. Think of the last conflict you were in. When you were upset with something someone said or didn't say, something someone did or didn't do. And think about how upset you were and what you did next. We're going to talk about that next step in the conflict process. What happens when one person engages the other person to get a response?
Conflict Mediation and You is sponsored by the Center for Dispute Solutions.
Hello, welcome. This is Conflict Mediation and You.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Rick.
And today we're going to continue our conversation about how conflict gets started.
Yes.
What do you do? Who starts what and who sort of carries it through?
Yeah, we had already talked about engage or don't engage, let it go or engage. So today we're actually going to reference the idea of if they can't let it go, they're literally going to go and engage that other person.
Okay. And if they do let it go?
Then the conflict's over.
Really?
Well, should be. I mean, they're not if they keep dwelling on it, then they didn't really let it go.
Yeah. I'm curious, how does one let a conflict go? Usually once a conflict starts, it's going to have to go until somebody wins.
Well, the conflict
loses.
starts inside that first person, and then if they can really get over it, then they really don't care what happens. Okay. I'm done, I'm finished, I don't have the energy for it, so they're just going to move on with their life.
Okay. Hopefully. Okay. And if they don't?
Ooh, then they've got to talk to that other person. They've got to engage somehow. They have to have a conversation. This is motivated by, I just can't live with this. I've got to talk to that. I can't let this go. I can't let other people see that I've let this go. I have to confront the other person.
And how does that confrontation look? I mean, how does it, I know if it's a physical confrontation, you know what that looks like, but...
Yeah, we don't want to talk about this physical
No, we want to try to avoid getting to that point.
Right.
So how does that look?
Well, I mean, think about the last conflict you were in, or we could start a conflict right here and see if you want to... No, let's not do that.
No.
But I'm thinking about a conflict. Someone says something. I'm upset, and I've got to say something, right? Want you to think of one as well. Something that, and think about what you did. Think about how you formulated even the courage. Now, my experience is that it's not really a matter of courage. It's that I literally cannot not talk to this person. If I can't let it go, then I have to say something. I'm worried about the relationship, or I'm worried about the disrespect, or I'm worried about some kind of result that's going to happen if I don't say something. So I literally, it's not about, I guess I may have to build up some courage.
Okay, let's go to one that comes up a lot. And I'm going to say mediations that we get that come out of the court. And usually someone will file a complaint with the court because of something that's happened to them. I loan you $100. You said you were going to pay it back to me in 2 weeks. And it's been 4 weeks. And you haven't paid me back. Now all of that's bubbling up inside of me. So now I have a choice. I can either wave goodbye to the $100 or I can confront you about that. Now let's say I choose to confront you.
Okay.
And what's going to happen then? I mean, I have to get this out.
Yes, you have to say something.
Yeah, I have to get it out. So now that I've said something to you, then I've engaged.
Yes.
And from that point, where do we go?
Well, and notice that conflict, I mean, we talked about this before, started in you.
Right.
I'm oblivious. I have $100 and I'm fine. And the longer I put it off, the better off I am. So now that you've engaged, now there's two people involved.
Right.
But it started with the one person. So you're going to come to me and you're going to say something.
I want my $100.
Yes. And you're probably going to say something as an explanation, depends on how much you care about the relationship. So usually what happens is the person comes with an explanation. Remember that $100 I loaned you? You said you were going to give it. It's framing the conversation in a way that sets up that I really should do what you're about to ask me to do.
Right.
So there's always an explanation, and then there's an expectation that follows that. The expectation is that this person will indeed listen to me and grant my next request. And your request is?
You give me my $100. The conflict is...
Right, if I say yes, here it is, here's your $100, thanks for loaning it to me, sorry it was late, and here's a little for interest, then conflict's over.
But you don't do that. You have the $100, but you don't want to let it go now.
Or I don't have the $100 yet, because...
No, knowing you have the $100, but you don't want to let it go.
So I say, no, I'm not going to, or maybe I'll be polite and say, I can't give it to you yet. Now, how are you going to react to that?
Well, there's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I can take that, I can't give it to you yet, and let it drop.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can take that, I can't give it to you yet, and further engage you.
Right.
Like, when are you going to give it to me?
When are you going to give it to me? So there's even an escalated...
Yeah.
So here's what I often see in situations like that in personal conflicts is you ask for your money back. Go ahead.
I want my $100.
That was a loan? I thought that was a gift.
I don't see how you could ever have come up with that when I clearly stated when I released the money to you, this is a loan. You are going to pay me back. Is that correct? And your response at that time was what?
Yes, but I only said that because given our relationship, certainly I thought the kind of friend you were that you would just easily give me the money, that you were just pulling my leg.
About paying
No, this was a gift. I don't know you anything.
Now we have a problem.
You have a problem.
Really going to have a conflict going here. I need my $100 back. I need it back.
Well, I just can't believe you would treat us that way. I thought we were friends.
I probably should have gone under that assumption that we are friends.
Yeah.
And you know the saying, never loan a friend money.
But you knew how much I needed it, and you really cared about my outcome, so you gave me that money.
I loaned you that money in the expectation that I would get it back. If I don't get my $100 back, then I'm not going to be able to make my car payment.
I feel really bad for you and your car payment. You should find a good friend that would give you that money, just like I had a good friend who gave me that money.
I like what you just said. Had a good friend.
Yes. But notice what's happening. We are literally arguing over the past. We are literally debating that explanation. You have an explanation that insinuates reasonable expectation that I give you the money back. I have an explanation that leads to the reasonable expectation that I should get to keep the money.
We really have a conflict building here.
So notice, when that happens, I sit here trying to convince you, and you sit there trying to convince me, and then pretty soon, if this keeps going, what are you going to eventually think about me? I mean, I've already challenged your friendship. Are you going to start to have negative character
Your
thoughts?
expectation is that there's more that I can think of you?
Or less that you can think of me?
I'm not sure there's a more or less to this.
Uh-huh.
Because if I'm not going to get my $100 back, then I'm probably going to have to take you to court.
You would do that?
Yep. filing fee is only $75. I'll lose a half a day's work. So that's a day's pay plus $75. But I'll take you to court.
Unbelievable.
The $100 really doesn't mean that much to me, but it's just the principle of it.
You would ruin our friendship over $100 lousy bucks.
I don't think it'll ruin the friendship. I think it'll teach you a lesson. Don't ask me for money anymore.
That's another very interesting point. Usually, there's always a lesson involved. I see that all the time. I'm going to teach them a lesson. They're being irresponsible. They're being selfish. And selfish people deserve to be taught a lesson.
So I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to take you to court.
Wow. 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 I just can't believe you would do something like that. Well.
So you're going to give me my $100 back?
Ooh, see, now we start to threaten, escalate. If you don't give it back, see, you're already dropping into the pattern. Expectation and an explanation and then an expectation. And if I don't say yes, then you start cycling through with threats,
right?
Punishment. You're actually going to... And
does your wife know that you borrowed $100 from me?
Why would we have to involve my wife?
Because if she doesn't know, you didn't tell her. I'm going to tell her.
There's another threat.
You know she told you not to borrow money from anyone.
But I really needed the money.
Apparently you didn't think it through.
So escalating the threat. Now what's more of a threat? Telling my wife or taking me to court?
The biggest thing that hurt to you would be telling your wife.
Either way, you're just going to trash this friendship, aren't you?
No, I think it'll survive.
Really?
Really.
Wow, you're not thinking this through then. Because if you take me to court or I have to fight with my wife, I'm never going to forget that.
Well, you're right. You're right. I do need to think this through.
Mm-hmm.
If I take you to court, then a friendship will probably survive. If I tell your wife, it's over.
Wow.
So you have a choice.
There it is. You got a rock and a hard place. You really trying to convince me to give you my $100 back. Oops.
Oops. You're right. My $100.
This is usually what happens. People get into a conflict, and as soon as it goes to no, right? If I'd have said yes, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
If you had given me my $100 back, we would have been done.
All finished. There wouldn't have been a conflict at all. And actually, communication skills would have been enough. You would have said, "Look, I loaned you that money. You should give it back. Okay, I'll give it back. I hand it to you." Conflict over.
Everything is good.
But as soon as I said no, the conflict escalated. Now, we could keep using communication skills here, but notice all we're doing is escalating threats. And I was even doing a little shaming. A good friend wouldn't, and trying to do some guilt. You were trying to do some guilt, too.
Yeah, it didn't work too well.
No, well, I'm not sure the threats are working either.
I think I could push it.
Whew, man. Well, let's go to our sponsors and see if you can calm down a little bit.
You think it's through and give me my $100 back?
No.
How does your small business stay top of mind with customers? From deals that bring them in with an offer, to social media promotions that turn fans into customers, to events that engage and create buzz, to emails that keep loyal customers coming back. Our easy-to-use tools will keep you in front of your customers.
Visita provides a complete business calendar, fully integrated with your client scheduling experience. You can view and manage your daily schedule and any upcoming meetings, and most importantly, schedule new appointments and follow-ups with your clients. Using Visita Calendar for client scheduling will save you time and deliver a better service to your clients. Visita Calendar automatically syncs with your existing calendar on Google, Outlook, iPhone, and more.
Okay, we've done a lot of talking here about conflict, and what I'd like to happen now is for the audience to be able to look back at what it was that we just did, and explain to them the difference between stage 1 conflict, stage 2 conflict, expectations, and explanations. Okay?
Yes. And what's really telling here is that in all the literature and research that I've looked at, I've never seen a distinction between a stage 1 and a stage 2 conflict. And the reason this becomes important is because most of the textbooks just really emphasize some version of advanced communication skills to resolve conflict. My experience, our experience, is that once you get to a stage 2, that the communication skills just are not enough to get
They're
people.
needed, but they're not enough.
Right, they're just not enough. So we have to have some other skills. And what we want to do is eventually get to the point where we are actually describing some of these skills. But first, that distinction between a stage 1 and a stage 2 conflict. The fundamental difference is as soon as I said no.
Then we jump from 1 to 2.
Right. That's the number one characteristic that makes it a stage 2 conflict. Had I said yes, basically, if we replayed that, you came and said, "Hey, I want my money," and I said, "Okay, here it is," conflict would have been over.
That would have ended it.
Or had I even asked, "Well, I don't have it right now. Can I get it to you this time next week?" What would you say?
And if I had said, "That'll be fine, we'll take care of it next week,"
Right. See?
that would have been the end of it.
Even if you would have, either one of us would have asked some clarifying questions. Well, can I give it to you in payments? Can I spread it out? Can I wait till next month? Either way, any of that clarification would have been communication skills. And communication skills would have been sufficient. Even if you were a little miffed, we still could have gotten through that.
It still could have been resolved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as soon as I said no, what happened to you?
Well, one of the things happened was that inside of me it escalated from just bubbling a little bit to, the bubbles were starting to burst.
Yeah.
Now, I loaned the money out, I'm not getting it back. Now I'm gonna push for this.
Yeah.
Because my expectation at that point is that you would have said, "Okay, I owe you the money. I'll give it to you now, or I'll give it to you next week." But that didn't happen.
Right.
I mean, the explanation that you gave me just didn't work.
Right. So the first thing we see happening is you come to me because you have to. You've decided to engage.
Right.
And in coming to me, you bring with you an already framed in your head. I'm going to talk to Rick about this. I can't let this go. And you framed in your mind how you were going to approach me, and you framed it in such a way thinking that he'll give it to me, or he should give it to me. So your explanation sometimes would typically sound something like, "Hey, I loaned you that money. I hoped it'd help. You said you'd give it back to me. I need my money back." So that would be your explanation.
Well, that's my expectation that I would get the money. And on your side, there's an expectation.
Yeah, and so I come in, I challenge your explanation. No, I don't like your explanation. Here's my explanation. No, it was a gift. It wasn't a loan, and now we're arguing over that because my expectation was let me keep the money. So fundamentally, there's a request on both sides. You are asking to get the money back. I'm asking to keep the money, and that is the characteristic of stage 2.
And another piece of this is where we are in this conversation. I mean, in what you were just saying there and listening to it, you were saying I was.
Yeah.
So we were hanging in the past.
All of it was about some sort of past fact scenario, and we get to argue that your interpretation of the past facts,
Right.
my interpretation of the past facts, and then another characteristic we start to see in stage 2 is that shame and guilt, that I start to accuse you, right? I start to develop a character explanation that I need to have. So you're not a good friend becomes the character assassination I start to develop.
Mhm.
What am I?
Well, you're not a good friend because you're not sticking with what you promised.
Mhm.
Okay, you said you were going to do one thing, you didn't do it. My expectation was that you would do it. You didn't do it, so.
So am I a liar? Did that pass through?
Um,
Am I untrustworthy?
Well, those kind of thoughts would come up because you're not sticking to what it was that you said.
Right.
So if you're not sticking to what you're saying, then yeah, I might start thinking, well, he's not trustworthy. He's not being honest.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to, manipulate me, if you will.
Right.
So all of these things start coming up. So, but how do we need to move from that point. So.
Yeah. And we tried. I mean, we escalated. I mean, I'm sitting here with some care. Well, the very next thing you did was the punishment. I mean, because if I'm untrustworthy, if I'm not keeping my word, and you deserve to get your money back, then you're going to come up with a plan to teach me a lesson. And then we start to threaten.
And did that work?
Well, it may eventually work, but not sitting here, because now it's like, oh, I'm not going to give in. Now I'm feeling threatened, and my escalation's going up, and you're feeling threatened by the no, so your escalation's going up.
So the conflict just keeps escalating.
So then I threaten you, you threaten me.
So how do we stop that?
Well, at some point, we need to know the characteristics of stage 2.
Okay.
And realize that the dynamics that we're working on are your request to me to give you the money and then my no. Those are the two things that we actually really, a conflict expert would be focusing on. That would be the very next step. Instead, what I constantly see are conflict managers starting to investigate the past. Now, Robert, did you really clarify that this was a loan?
And that wouldn't have gotten us any place. That won't get us any place.
Rick, are you being honest when you say that you actually thought this was a gift? Now, didn't Robert actually say the word loan? See, and they start doing this little investigation of what really happened. They start going after the facts, because we're arguing the facts. And if we could just come up with a true interpretation of the facts, this conflict would be over.
Right.
That's what they're thinking. Right. When really, this escalation is way past the truth or the facts.
So the facts coming out of the past will not resolve conflict.
I've never seen it. In fact, what we teach people in terms of resolving conflict is the truth's irrelevant. I know that sounds like a shock, but we don't need the truth to resolve a conflict.
Perhaps we need to explain that.
Yes. So, even if we found the truth, let's say a third party was sitting here.
An arbitrator.
Or, well, let's maybe even a mediator. Or a manager, right? If we were 2 employees. Some kind of way to make some decision. But even if that person is there, and lo and behold, the evidence leans more in your favor. You pull out a microphone, you pull out a tape recorder and say, see, I actually did say loan. Hear that? Then what we would have here is you would be proven right, and I would be proven wrong. I'm going to hate you for that.
But I would give $100 back.
Oh, but I could find another reason not to give it to you. It's not the fact that it was a loan or a gift that's not getting your money back.
Yeah, this is such an easy a conflict, if you will, that can be resolved. Why is it so difficult? I mean, all you have to do to resolve this
is give you the money.
is give me the money back.
I don't want to give you the money.
But if I don't get the money back, as I said, I won't be able to make the car payment. And if I don't make the car payment, I could have my car repossessed. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Do you know how difficult it would be to get transportation from the south side of Atlanta to the north side of Atlanta? It doesn't exist. Public transport, it exists, but it doesn't work very well. So this $100, not getting his $100, I mean, this just creates all kinds of problems.
For you.
Yeah.
Now, what you just did is exactly what everyone does. And why this escalates. It's not the no that has made you upset. It's the fact that by not getting your money, this scenario of pain, this scenario of what you said, embarrassment, this scenario of complicated life, that's really what triggers. Soon as I say no, you see a world that you can't live with. And it's my fault. That had I just said yes, that whole world would never have come into being. But because I said no, your life's now problematic. It's harder. And who's responsible for that being harder?
You.
Me.
Yeah.
So that's why communication skills do not work by themselves in stage 2, because what you originally started to, that triggered this conflict, that made you confront me, not only did you have that coming in, well, if I don't get my money back, then I'm going to have trouble. But as soon as you ask me and I say no, what you hear is, I in fact don't care that you have that trouble. That's the escalating point. That from then on out, communication skills won't work.
And with that, all of these images, pictures, if you will, start popping up in my head.
And all of them are my fault. If you don't get your money back, all of that's going to come true.
It's going to happen, yeah.
Now, here's the other interesting thing, and then we can end on this note. When you ask for your money back, and I imagine myself giving it to you, me handing over the money creates a photograph of difficulty in my life. If I literally give you the money right now, then I'm not going to be able to X, Y, Z.
So you're creating pictures in your head too.
And the more you demand it, the more I think you don't care what happens to me.
So now each one of us is creating more and more pictures
Yes.
in our heads around what this $100 means to me, to you, to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just the money that feeds this conflict. That's what we have to understand about a stage 2 conflict. So how about if we park this for now, come back later, and talk about what that photograph of loss works.
I think that'll work.
Okay.
Okay.
See you next time.